Number 6.
But, Lamar Jackson's better than Jordan Love in my opinion, so I have them at 6. Second largest rushing differential in a season in league history. They remain a run team. Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews allows them to pass as well, but number 1 scoring defense, number 1 total defense since week 11. I love this organization. Kind of holding your breath on what they looked like in the January playoffs, but the Ravens at 6.
I like how he says, Lamar Jackson is better than Jordan Love in my opinion. I think that's kind of seen as like a universal opinion. I mean, I think even huge Jordan Love fans would still be like, yeah, he's got some more growth, ahead of him. So I don't think it's that controversial of an opinion, quite frankly. But man, the Baltimore Ravens, I think this is too low, to be fair. I'll actually queue it up so you can see all 10 right now. So you can see the Vikings, the Lions, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs all ahead. Now, as I said when I did the video, when I did like all 10 at the same time, at this point, I'm not really interested in trying to figure out exactly who's 1, who's 2, 5 or 4. Like, I don't care personally. In all honesty, I really only care that much even throughout the whole season. Honestly, I put teams in groups and tiers. I've always said that, and especially at this point in the season, that remains even more true and undeniable from my viewpoint. And right now, I'm just looking at teams that I think are Super Bowl contenders, and I have the Packers, the Ravens, the Vikings, the Lions, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs as the teams that I believe that actually legitimately can win the Super Bowl and not have it be like where they have to go on some like historic, like, oh my God, like, because technically the Chargers can, but it's just like, it would be like, what just happened? Like, it would legitimately blow my mind and be like, I've never seen someone catch fire like that before. It would just be more specific. I could see the Ravens grinding out a win after win. I could see the Lions, the Chiefs, the Bills, etc. But with the Ravens, I've had so many different takes, although all with the same essence in terms of the Ravens this season, where any of their drawbacks, any of their issues, I've really put on coaching more than anything, and all the penalties, etc. And I've even, defended Lamar Jackson for some of his recent playoff failures and whatnot, and again, put that on coaching and stuff. And the season unfolds, and they get off. They have a couple rough losses, and then they really right the ship and look dominant. I mean, they look just unbeatable. And then they have another couple, random down moments, down losses where things just don't look right. And you're just like, it's not like you lost. You just don't look right. You don't look like the team that I know you to be. And then it's like, okay, so then how do you make sense of this? And then, post-bye, which is what I thought really had the potential for, I was like, Lamar Jackson really seems like he's just kind of being like, enough of all this other nonsense. Like, I am just going to be me. And that's what he did the last 2 games. The last 3 games, but definitely the last 2 games more than anything. And it's like, okay, this is the Ravens team that I believe in. This is who I believe they can be. And when you see some of those games, you're like, how can this team not win? How can this team not be considered better than the Bills or the Chiefs or the Lions or even if we just stick with the AFC teams, like, how can this team not come out of the AFC? Like, how could the Chiefs find a way to beat them in the playoffs if it comes down to that? How could the Bills find a way? That's what it feels like in the moment. On the other side, you can also explain it and be like, yeah, they beat the Steelers, the Texans, and the Giants. The Giants, we know, are trash. The Texans are absolutely just not playing that good. I mean, that just can't be denied. They've had a very, not high-level season at all. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they keep losing. They've lost to now all top teams, the Eagles, the Chiefs. They're starting to kind of rack up these losses, and their last 3 or so games have been far from pretty. So again, it depends on which side you want to look at it. Like, do you want to just be like, the Ravens are fool's gold, or they're misleading some of their recent wins? Like, they're just playing teams that are clearly worse than them, but it doesn't mean that they can compete with the Chiefs or whatever. And so much of what Ravens fans really hold on to is that win against the Bills, months ago at this point. And it's just like, I don't care about that win anymore. It doesn't mean that I don't think that win wasn't impressive and doesn't deserve credit. It's just like, again, it really is like, what have you done for me lately? And how the Ravens have played lately has been awesome, and it's been high level football, especially from Lamar Jackson. So again, that then brings me back to this kind of feeling of like, it's so weird to kind of sit here with the Baltimore Ravens and feel on one side, if they lose in the playoffs, let's say they lose to the Chiefs, let's say it's a weird game again, I don't even know, like a weird score, 18-17, however the heck we got there. That's what it is, 18-17, and they lose. And it's just like, in one way I would be like, I'm not surprised, because I would be like, why, like we would probably be able to point out they only handed the ball off to Derrick Henry 10 times. Lamar Jackson was kind of stuck on an island, nowhere to go with the ball. He made a couple really beautiful plays. He missed a couple throws, like whatever it is, right? And the Chiefs find a way to win. And I would be like, how could I be surprised by that? And on the other side, it feels like it would be surprising if they don't win, because I'm like, this team has the ability to just feel like that they are an absolute exhausting team. That this team should be able to just beat the Vikings. Like, if they needed to go on a tear and beat the Vikings, the Lions, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs, they should be able to do it. They should absolutely be able to do it. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson right now, especially, the dynamic aspects of his game feel so unbeatable. And that's what I keep wrestling with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens as a whole. Because you guys know that I absolutely praise Josh Allen and think Josh Allen is truly elite, and his physicality and everything he does. But they are obviously, both Josh Allen and Lamar are very different physically. They do a lot of the same things, but they're different physically. And there is such an extra, like I think Josh brings like an extra power, an extra like oomph, kind of like a. But Lamar Jackson brings such a like Josh Allen gets hit, and I'm like, oh my God, is he gonna be okay? And granted, he is banged up, his hand, his arm, like he is kind of like, feels like, oh, like, are you okay? Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, even though ironically he's had some of his injuries and even missed some games late in the season, I'm kind of like, can that guy, like, that guy looks like he can kind of do anything. He can escape anything. He can take any hit. Like, he's got such this extra bounce to him. Like, it feels like Josh Allen's a beast, but it feels like Josh Allen's like, man, I got to get into an ice bath. Like, I am beat up. I need a massage. Like, Lamar Jackson feels like the dude's never felt physical pain a day in his life. Like, he's like, pain? I don't know. Like, how do your knees feel? And he's like, I never thought about it. And it's like, you've never thought about your knees? Like, you don't have, like, aches? Like, you're never like, oh, man, I feel my knees are a little bit kind of sore right now. And he's like, I don't know. What do you mean sore? What does sore mean? And it's like, like when it kind of feels like a little bit of pain, like in the muscles or like in the back. And he's just like, that's a thing? People feel that way? And it seems like Josh Allen's like, yeah, man, I know exactly what pain feels like. And it's just this energy that Lamar Jackson, that he brings. And like I've said this before, like this youthfulness. And so it's just like, I try to wrap my head around, like, how can this team underperform? And I don't mean like that's how they are underperforming right now. It's just like kind of a question that I'll sometimes ask myself, thinking like, essentially, like, how can a team lose? How can the Eagles not win the Super Bowl this year? How can the Chiefs not win a Super Bowl this year? And it's an interesting way to kind of look at things sometimes, right? It's easy to look for ways how they can. Well, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, or Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. It's like, we know those things. So it's like, how can they not win? How can they not find ways to get past the Bills, the Chiefs, and, whoever they have to end up playing? And it's an interesting question. And to me, the answer is really kind of two kind of answers. One, it's that they're just not prepared for the moment. That they're just not. I do not think that they were prepared last year. I do not, quite frankly. I've been very vocal about that, but I'm also not trying to constantly reference the past. It's just the most recent playoff experience we have, so it's like that's what we can go off of. And the other thing is the other players not stepping up. I know at the end of the day, this all falls on like Lamar Jackson and even Derrick Henry for that matter, especially, of course, offensively. At the end of the day, it falls on Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But also, every single one of those players, of these great players, they need the surrounding cast to step up. I mean, you remember that Travis Kelce catch that he had, like that diving catch from Mahomes against the Baltimore Ravens? Like, it's all of these other random little things that really add up. Josh Allen doesn't have his receivers catch the ball against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, who were dropping all the balls, suddenly stopped. Right? Like, they made the plays when they needed to. They didn't draw that penalty at the worst time. They did not fumble the ball at the goal line. So it's like, do I see the Ravens getting in like a shootout with the Bills or the Chiefs? And it doesn't even have to be a traditional shootout of like some, because we've seen a lot of high scoring, like 44 or 42 games. Like, I don't even need mean to necessarily be like that, but just like a true back and forth, exciting. Like it really kind of feels like both teams are having trouble stopping each other. I can't see the Baltimore Ravens playing high level football and losing. Like, that's what it gets boiled down to for me. I can see these other teams playing high level football and still losing. It's hard for me to wrap my head around, because every time the Ravens lose, it's so easy for me to be like, they did things wrong. It doesn't feel like they were beaten. It feels like they were just wrong, unprepared. And I know most teams can be like, hey, when we play our best ball, no one can beat us. And I get it. When everyone's firing at all cylinders, if the Eagles feel like that they're playing their best, they feel that, no one can beat them. And I think it would be a fair point to say that about the Eagles, really some of these top teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, etc. But it's just hard for me to see that if you really get Lamar Jackson's best game, along with Mark Andrews and Likely and Flowers and Bateman and Derek, you're right, and you have the defense step up and make some plays. They force a 3-and-out versus the Kansas City Chiefs deep in their own kind of territory. And so now Lamar gets the ball at the 50, the 45. Right, like it's like they do those things, and then they don't do something dumb on their own self and do their own 3-and-out. They play high level football. You're just like, how can this team not win? How can this team not pull it away? And with the Ravens, they're a team where it's like, if there was a way for me to, if I just, like, I don't know, I didn't watch any of these games, and it's like February, whatever, and the Super Bowl's already over, and I didn't watch any of the playoffs, anything, and I say, who wins? And if someone says, anyone but the Baltimore Ravens, I would immediately be like, I need to know how they didn't win. I need to know how things went wrong. Like, I need to know. I wouldn't feel that way about the Lions, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs. Like, it would be like, I need to know, how did this unfold? And I'm just, yeah. I mean, again, the closer we get to this this end, we are right there. We are essentially playoffs right now, honestly, especially for some of these teams and what they need. And it's just like, I'm sitting here looking at the Ravens, and it's kind of fascinating to me that if we do just want to kind of play this numbers game, and again, I'm not disputing it if we had to like purely put numbers to all these things, like how you could be the Baltimore Ravens and be sitting here and saying that the Vikings are better, that the Lions are better, that the Bills are better. The best argument technically would be the Eagles and the Chiefs, because those are two teams that beat the Ravens, although I am not the person that says just because you beat them means you're better than them, because again, you have the Bills beat the Chiefs, and you have the Chiefs live and die by head-to-head, single games like that. But you have to kind of have this feeling of, if not this year, when? And I think there should be a tremendous amount of energy behind the Baltimore Ravens. And, this year is as good as any other year. If they lose to the Bills or the Chiefs, and I'm trying to think of any other potential matchups. I mean, maybe, again, I guess it all depends on how things unfold, like the Chargers or the Steelers. Like, you can't explain it. The Eagles lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year, or not last year, in 22. You could be like, yeah, it was the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Spags, Travis Kelce, pretty much in his prime. You could explain it. You could be like, yeah, man, that was a tough game. Same thing with the 49ers versus the Chiefs. The Bengals versus the Rams. Trying to think of any other, the 49ers versus the Lions in the NFC Championship game. The Lions versus the Rams. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just be like, hey man, we just went up against a great team. What are we going to do? Sometimes the team is just better. Sometimes the team just plays better. It just is what it is. I don't think if you're a Ravens fan or if you're the Baltimore Ravens organization as a whole, you can't feel that way if you lose to the Bills, if you lose to the Chiefs. Because I don't think either of those teams this year are unstoppable juggernauts. And if we're going to say, well, you know what, all three of those teams are pretty similar, if we want to just do a basic rating, one team's, on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being the best, one team is 95, one team's 94, one team's 96, right? They're all just right there within each other. You'd have to be like, well, then why can't the Baltimore Ravens find the way to win? Like, why would they not be able to find? I mean, they've already burned some of their losses in years past. This is this year. Like, what do we need to do? Like, I don't understand. Do we have to have Lamar Jackson take a $25 million contract so we can just stack the roster? Like, I don't understand. Do we need to hire some hotshot head coach out, in college that no one's even talking about because we just found the ultimate diamond in the rough? We just found the next Andy Reid and nobody knows about it. Like, it's like, what would we need to do? How do we get there? That would be the answer. That would have to be the question. It would be all hands on deck. What the heck do we need to do? Because it would be indefensible. And in a lot of ways, you could say the same thing about the Buffalo Bills feeling the same way. It's indefensible. We are not going up against these juggernauts. Now, to a degree, if you're individually the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, you could be like, hey man, Josh Allen happened. Hey man, Lamar Jackson happened. Hey man, Patrick Mahomes happened. But, if you're a Ravens fan, it's like, you got to get there. You got to get there. And I just don't think that there's any situation where if the Ravens lose, specifically to the Bills or the Chiefs this year in the playoffs, that I could just be like, yeah, man, what are you going to do? It's the Buffalo Bills. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, man. It's just bad timing that Lamar Jackson is playing during this time when Patrick Mahomes ain't like, no. I disagree with that logic. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Baltimore Ravens being ranked 6th, according to Colin? And again, according to Colin, outside of the Super Bowl bubble. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.